Hi, I'm Adam Kosmicki with Norland International, and today I'm going to give you a brief overview of the operation of our Triton 450, our 450 bottle per hour washer, filler, and capping system. Starting off at the front of the Triton 450, bottles are fed onto the feed conveyor and are traveled down through the feed conveyor of the Triton 450 and into the loading mechanism. The system is able to process both 3 and 5 gallon bottles simultaneously, both your traditional 5 gallon bottles that you see in my right hand here, or short squatty 3 gallon bottles, or tall skinny 3 gallon bottles. The bottles travel down the conveyor into the loading area. They're loaded into the tilt tray area. They're pushed into the tilt tray. The tilt tray lays down and those bottles are pushed into the holder via full stroke of the load cylinder. And that allows us to do either the short bottles or the tall bottles simultaneously. Once the bottles are loaded in the holders, the bottles transition into the washing section of the Triton 450. The washer portion consists of 4 unique zones. You have a pre-wash zone, you have a wash zone, a sanitized zone, and a final rinse. And throughout the washer, there's eight unique stations. The first station is the pre-wash station, where the inside of the bottle and the exterior of the bottle is washed with a pre-rinse solution. The bottles then move into 4 stations of heated detergent wash to give you your 1 minute of contact time of heated detergent. All 4 stations have an internal rinse of the bottle, wash of the bottle, and 2 of the center stations have exterior washes of the bottle. What you'll notice is there's conveyor curtains between unique sections, and those conveyor curtains are there to help to minimize the amount of carryover from one station to the next. In addition, you have physical bottles blocking the stations between external wash and internal rinse of the bottles. Once the bottles transition from pre-rinse, pre-wash to the wash station, they move into 2 stations of sanitizer, where the sanitize is internal in both stations and external in the final station. Once those bottles are rinsed, washed, sanitized, they move into a final rinse where the inside of the bottle is rinsed with your actual product water. That product water is then recycled. What's drained is captured and recycled to feed the pre-rinse station, so that those bottles are being rinsed at the beginning of the process with your actual product water. The washer has a dedicated tank for that pre-rinse. That tank holds about 15 gallons of water, and that water is recycled. So as the water from your final rinse fills that tank up, any excess just flows to drain, what you'd normally see in your normal rinse of your bottles. The wash section consists of a 25-gallon tank of heated detergent solution, and the sanitized station consists of a 25-gallon tank of your sanitized solution. The washer, one of the features of the Triton 450 washer is we have chemical feed pumps that on initial startup, as those tanks are filling up through the HMI, the human machine interface at the front of the machine, you're able to put in your predetermined amount of detergent you want to add per 25 gallons of wash solution. You're able to program in how much sanitized solution you want for your sanitized during the initial fill up of your sanitized tank. As the washer is operating and you're using water through the evaporation, through chemical depletion, and as those tanks fill back up to maintain level, you can again program in at the front of the HMI how much makeup chemical concentration you want for both your detergent or your sanitizer to maintain that level per time that your valve is on to fill those tanks. Additionally, you can program in how much makeup solution you want to add per numbers of bottles processed. So for example, if every 400 bottles you want to put in another 4 ml or 20 ml of detergent, you're able to program in the amount of time you want your chemical feed pumps on to make up detergent within those tanks, in addition to the normal makeup water that's put inside those tanks. Moving on from the washer to the filler, as the bottles are transitioning through the filler through those various stages of pre-wash, wash, sanitize, and rinse, part of what we're doing is we're monitoring the motor that is moving those bottles through that transition. And if there is a bottle jam or something occurs within that washer that increases a binding effect, the system alerts you via the touchscreen that there's some type of jam that you need to investigate, which is a safety feature for operators and for to reduce bottle damage. As the bottles exit the washer, similar to how the bottles are loaded, the bottles are removed from the holder via the removal pins, transitioned into the tilt tray where those bottles are then lifted up and placed onto the feed conveyor. And again, the system doesn't care whether it's a short fat 3-gallon bottle or a tall skinny 3-gallon bottle or a 5-gallon bottle. Those bottles are removed from the holder. The tilt tray tilts those bottles up, allows those bottles to be stabilized and encapsulated for a brief second, and that tilt tray lays back down. The bottles then transition into the fill nozzles. There's 2 fill nozzles that fill either the bottle number 1 or bottle number 2. As the bottles move into the fill area, the bottle sensors detect whether there's a bottle present in fill nozzle 1 or fill nozzle 2. And again, the bottle clamps are such design that it doesn't matter if it's a smaller diameter or a larger diameter bottle. Those clamps center the bottle underneath the fill nozzle. And as the fill nozzle comes down, there's sensors at the top of the fill nozzles that detect whether it's a tall 5-gallon bottle or whether it's a shorter 3-gallon bottle or even a 2-gallon bottle for that matter. As those nozzles come down, if the nozzle drops below that sensor switch, the system indicates that it's a shorter 3-gallon bottle, and you're able to control your fill volumes for that shorter volume via the touchscreen. One of the unique features of the fill area is there's a plate lift system that lifts those bottles up off of the conveyor during the fill process to further support those bottles. But in addition, that allows the conveyor to run underneath the bottle so that we can pre-stage bottles in the filler, and the bottles that have just been filled can exit the system and go through the cap, pick, and place and capping system. Starting with the cap elevator, the cap elevator hopper holds approximately a box and a half of caps, which is about 500 to 750 caps. Caps are elevated to the top of the sorter. At the top of the sorter, we have a UV light system that further sterilizes those caps just to ensure that they're bacteria-free, safe. Caps are orientated within the sorter. Caps come down the cap chute. The system, as those bottles are exiting through the HMI and timing settings, once that bottle's underneath the pick and place system, the pick cylinder comes down full stroke to the top of that bottle. Once it detects the top of the bottle, it retracts up 3/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, and a cap is picked. That bottle continues to transverse down the filling area to the cap press, where that cap is pressed on top of the bottle. And again, that system is full stroke, so it doesn't matter whether it's a short bottle or a taller bottle during that capping process. As the bottles exit the system, the bottles have now been washed, sanitized, rinsed, filled, and capped. The bottles exit our Triton 450 filler and go through an inkjet date coder. And this actually uses a thermal ink so that we can get a date code and batch code on that particular bottle. That ink is a thermal ink, so it is removed in the washing process when those bottles are reprocessed. Another unique feature of the Triton 450, and as well as some of our other products, is at the exit of our system, we have a conveyor clearance sensor, so that if downstream processes back up or downstream processes stop as operators go and perform different necessary tasks in the bottled water plant, if bottles back up to the particular sensor location, sensor is indicated and seen that there's bottles backing up, and the system goes into what's called a soft pause. The system will stop processing bottles through the washer and stop bottles from going through the filling process until that obstacle is cleared. Once that obstacle is cleared, the system will start back up again and begin processing bottles. One of the other unique features of the Triton 450 system is that it is a timed process. So the system's looking for a bottle every 14 or so seconds. So as long as you're feeding bottles on the front side of that unit at a rate that exceeds 450 bottles per hour, the system is going to process those bottles at 450 bottles per hour. And the benefit of that is you're reliant now on your operators feeding bottles at the front and your operators packing bottles off on the backside. Whereas as contrary to a semi-automatic system, your operators having to put bottles onto a holder and pushing a button to initiate that cycle. This system here processes those bottles as fast as you're loading them. That's a real brief overview of the operation of our Triton 450 washer filler capper. If you want to see more information on that system, you can go to our website, look at the video of the system in operation, or reach out to one of our sales reps here at Norland International. Thank you for your time.